Welcome to the Business of Apparel podcast. This is the place to learn how to start and scale your own apparel brand and fill it with loyal customers for years to come. I'm your host, Rachel Erickson, owner and CEO of Unmarked Street. I can't wait to share this episode with you. I think something else I want to get in with you today, because you and I are both kind of always on this like squiggly path. And this might be kind of scary for listeners who are in the apparel industry or thinking about joining the apparel industry, but it is a really tough kind of cutthroat industry to be a part of. And I will say a lot of people that I know who have been a part of it for as long as like Jessica and I have, for 20 years or more, do at some point figure out how to get out of it, because it is so hard on your relationships, on anxiety and stress and burnout and all of those key words. I'd love to kind of talk through with you. I mean, number one, that's why I started Unmarked Street. I needed to get out of corporate. But I think you and I have both kind of thought about different career paths. And I'd love to kind of hear a lot about what you're doing right now.
Well, I do this as our careers always follow each other. Mm-hmm. Yep. I have my same consulting firm. And what's great about consulting is that there's a level of, we both have 20 years of experience.
Yeah.
We know what happens when you order, trims from this country with specific lockdowns now. Yeah. And the challenge of getting that to Vietnam. So it's a way for us to keep sharing our knowledge, but let's be real. It's a really tough industry to get out of. How do you translate the skills of, I know that a satin label is 3 cents. Like we have all of these, and to some people you're like, oh, you can look at a bill of materials and I can tell you how much everything costs. Mm-hmm. Fabulous skill for some people, but outside of this industry,
yeah,
a lot of people don't care that, thread is 21 cents on a t-shirt.
Oh my God, I was literally going to say the same thing. Thread is 21 cents.
Oh my God, yes. We've looked at far too many bills of materials.
Yes. Oh my God, that's so funny.
So there's this weird pull of wanting to leave, but you get where you have so much experience where you really can make a huge impact for a brand. And that's super fun and enjoyable to be like, okay, here's all of my stories of China or let's just put Asia and Eastern Europe. Yes. We'll put it all together. Central America too. Mm-hmm. And you want to be able to provide that, but it is really tough to try to say hey, company outside of the apparel industry, I don't just draw pictures on a paper of a t-shirt. There's real skills and real value. And I think that that's really challenging for a lot of us to translate it out. And it's hard to there's some pull once you have 20 years of experience to share the knowledge.
Yeah.
And you want to feel valued and to walk away from all of those experiences and serious challenges and really long days and jet lag, to walk away from it, to do something else it's also hard.
Yeah.
So there's this weird mixed feeling of wanting to leave this really, really tough industry and wanting to stay to contribute what you've learned over 20 years. So it's just a tough, you get in it so deep, it's really hard to get out.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And I haven't shared a ton of this because it's been such a back and forth clusterfuck of everything that I've been doing over the last couple of years, to be quite honest. But at one point I really thought, Unmarked Street might not succeed. And what does that look like for me? And I still even have those questions on a regular basis. And so I went and got my real estate license. I was encouraged by a couple different people who are in the real estate industry who said, I think you'd be really good at this. So I went and I took all of my classes. And in October of 2022, I actually got licensed as a real estate agent and kind of started to dive into that. And I've more recently decided that that is not the career path I am going to take, at least not immediately, because I've decided to go all in on whatever we can do for Unmarked Street and RTQ Apparel. But yeah, there was kind of this burning desire to be like, okay, I'm either ready to step away because I'm ready and I've been doing this for so long, or I'm ready to step away because the industry is done with me. And there's kind of this feeling of, yeah, maybe this won't work, and maybe the apparel industry, you know, has done what it needs to do with me, and here I go doing something else.
Yeah. It's a weird place to be after you've been in the industry for so long to then be looking around.
Yeah.
I as well thought about, do I become a real estate agent?
Yeah.
You know, you look around and see where you can translate your skills into something else. Because if there's one thing that I think we get really good at in the apparel industry, it's communication,
Hmm.
working with people, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
negotiating different things. Like, God, that's what you do all day, every day. So it is a really, it's a hard industry because we've both went through several different companies, and a lot of the times we're not leaving by choice. We're leaving because they've eliminated that division we're working in.
Yep.
We as product developers, we know when there's financial issues right away because we're the first ones that the factories asks, why didn't that bill get paid?
Yep.
And that's our red flag. We got to go.
Yep.
So, I think my resume reads like a going out of sale list, like the bankruptcies of Colorado. So, it's, and I have had at multiple companies, my boss will sit me down and say, where do you want to go next? We don't have much time left here.
Mm,
Multiple times. And there's only so many times you can start over before you're like, oh my
yeah.
goodness, like this is tough,
Yeah.
and you have a passion for it. And then you're like, but how many times do you start over?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
And in some ways, I think that that's why we both have ended up in consulting, because we have such an experience from so many different ways of doing things.
Yeah.
This company does it this way, this company does it. Everybody has their own take on it. So when you've been at a bunch of different companies, you can say, well, if we do this production model here and we do these designs here, we're actually going to be able to make a better margin. And we're able to really come in and help be super successful
Yeah.
for some of those companies because we have those pieces together. But yeah, there's some days when you're like,
Yeah.
I don't want to start over again.
I know, it's really hard. I actually was on a call just the other day, and someone was asking me about the timing of a certain company that I had left. And I described it as, how, like, if you see a natural disaster happening, like off the coast, and you're just going to get in your car and you're going to like drive as fast as you can in the opposite direction. Like, that is how I would liken my leaving that company. And they were like, you could see it coming. And it's literally, and I had no way of describing it, but you literally just said it. Like, there are so many red flags that you get clued into as the development manager, as the product manager, and you just have a sense that like things are really about to change and things are really about to not go well. And if I want to continue having success in this industry, like I need to go find a place that is essentially not going to fire me 3 months from now.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's really crazy is, you take a risk when you go with the small to medium sized companies that they're not going to make it. Because a lot of small companies, they don't have some of those basic skills that I think now I can rattle off and you rattle off to people to say, like, figure out what your overall budget is in your business plan, because a lot of small companies aren't doing that and then they're going out of business. But now, only because we've seen them not succeed so many times, we can say, hey, that's important.
Yeah.
But you're at a small company and you take that risk, but you're at a big company. All the big companies I know, they do layoffs every couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So you're really never truly safe in the apparel industry. And I've seen it where, like, there's fabulous people and you have two fabulous people that have been laid off. And you're like, it doesn't even kind of make sense.
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
It's a salary on a spreadsheet, and they don't know the work that they're putting in and doing and the trips that they're taking and the valuable information that they're bringing.
Yep.
And ultimately making the company. And then they're getting cut. And so it's a really tough industry because I don't think that there's not a place where you can say, hey, I'm going to be safe if I'm at this big company.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee. And there's no guarantee that your small company is going to make it. And there's no guarantee that your medium company isn't going to decide to cut all of these different divisions out of it and just go back to their core base, whatever that is.
Yep.
So I think we've both been through all of those experiences. So it's a freaking tough industry.
It really is. I had a totally different conversation, but you just touched on something there too. A couple of weeks ago, where someone is dealing with basically their company's being sold. It's a large company, and they were kind of being bought by a new person, and so the people at the current company are being told, you basically get package A, B, or C.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, this person told me, I was talking to a lot of people. What do I want to do? What package am I going to take? Am I going to stay? Am I going to go? What do I feel like I need to do? And someone said to him, well, I'm going to stay because of the security. And something clicked for him that was like, I actually feel less secure staying at this company because of the way that layoffs happen in this industry right now than going out, and he's going to start his own company.
Yeah.
He feels more secure doing that.
And I think that that's really where both of us landed,
Yep.
right? It's, okay, how do we stay in this company, but like have some sense of control?
Yeah.
And I think we both said we have more control and we are able to share all of the experiences that we've had and really provide value for somebody if we have our own companies and we go at it ourselves and we bring in our own clients so that we know what it is.
Yeah.
This industry is really tough.
It is really brutal. And I feel like I've said that to people before and they kind of look at me like I have three heads, like, and I also have been learning a lot that people think that this industry is really easy. So when you say that to people, they're really flabbergasted that it's a tough, like brutal industry. Because everyone on this planet has some sort of relationship with clothes, right? Everyone has an opinion about it in some way, whatever that is. And I think the commonality of all of us having some sort of relationship with apparel in some way makes it feel like everybody can do it. If you kind of know what I mean. Like I know about apparel. I've been wearing clothes since I was a baby.
And I think that that's the challenge of why companies go out of business for such a variety of reasons, because everybody has an opinion.
Yeah.
And so, and very strong opinions.
Yes.
About who your target market is, whether it is or isn't that person, or the amount of capital that you have to start your collection, whether it's big or small.
Yep.
So, or whether you're going to grow slow or fast. So I think that piece where people do feel so connected to it in some ways is its downfall.
Yeah.
Because I can look back and I can tell you why every company failed. And to me, I'm like, oh my God, red flag.
Yeah. Yes.
What's going on? That was obvious. But they're so passionate about that opinion that they're not able to see why that wasn't the right track. And also, I think in the apparel industry, it's really common that people in upper management don't always want somebody pushing up against them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen that at a couple different companies where, for whatever reason, usually we have a male upper management, and that just seems to happen.
It's very dominant. Yes, it is.
It's very weird. And I have seen a lot of times where they surround themselves with people that all say yes to them.
Yes.
And I think that that's where product developers get a really bad rap, because we're saying, no, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
I've been to the factory. I've seen this. I know the constraints around why we can't do X, Y, and Z, but they don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
And I think that it can be really detrimental. It has been really detrimental when you're not talking to the people and really listening to the product developers that have the experience of why that there might be another way that works a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they know.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I've seen developers speak up in meetings and be really brave and talk to those CEOs and say, this is not going to work, or we cannot do that, or the factory will not do that, or whatever it is. And they get fired for not being a yes man. And yeah, I've seen some really bad examples of how that works in the industry as well. And you're right. It's, as someone who almost has like this logic and like fact-based background as a developer, like it's hard for you to go with this ethereal, like opinion-based stuff that's happening in some of those offices.
Yeah, it's really easy for somebody in an upper level office to look at a calendar and say, but you have 2 months.
Right.
Of course. And I'm like, oh my God, let me tell you why 2 months is not long enough.
Yes, exactly.
Like I'm about ready to fall over on the floor here because
yes,
I do not live in China that much. So,
yeah.
But until you know the nuts and bolts of it and say, okay, well, here, this takes 7 days to send this and we need 3 of them. Okay, right there.
Yeah.
There's 3 weeks. But until you can really sit down, and there's so much of that education that ends up happening, that product developers, if people are willing to listen to the upper management, that they end up having to do.
Yeah.
And they end up just, it's a tough position to be in when you have so much of the information across all the departments and you really have a clear understanding of like, I don't know that that's gonna work. But having somebody really listen and say, okay, explain to me why so I can really understand. It's just not part of company culture in apparel, unfortunately, because it seems so easy.
Yeah.
It's a t-shirt.
Oh my God.
I bought it at the store yesterday. I don't understand. Yeah. So it's just a really interesting dynamic that I think causes companies to churn faster.
Yeah.
Their employees, because I think there's only so much explaining product developers can do.
Yeah, agreed.
Before you get tired, you got to explain and you've got to do your work and you need to schedule your next trip. I mean, there's only so many hours in the day.
And let me 100% debunk that statement that it's just a t-shirt. Like, I have been at so many companies where the hardest project I worked on was making a great t-shirt. Seriously. Yes. It is so hard to make a great t-shirt fit, like fabric, torque, all of these weird things that go into like making a t-shirt, some of the hardest stuff.
But it all goes back to the original statement, because everybody has such a strong opinion on what length that t-shirt should be, on what width that t-shirt should be, on the sleeve length of that t-shirt. So to be able to get everybody that has really strong opinions, which is always a group of designers and product developers and, the whole team, to align on a t-shirt, if you can do that, that's gold standard.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and I think you add like customer reviews on top of that too, because when you start to look at like customer feedback on this t-shirt that maybe your team was happy making, everyone else who's buying it also has a very strong opinion about that t-shirt. And so in that way too, the apparel industry can be really brutal, because almost never, I'm not even going to say almost never. I never use the word never, but never will you ever create a garment that everyone on the world will want to wear. Never. You cannot do it. It is not possible. So being able to filter through, I think, some of the negative comments that come in on apparel, just understanding that everyone has an opinion about it and you're never going to please everybody is hard. Because you get a lot of negative feedback and people are passionate about telling you their negative feedback, and people aren't always passionate about telling you their positive feedback. So I think that's another element of it.
Yeah, it's so completely true.
Yeah, I've seen some really fun reviews out there and had to wade through some of those. But
although, okay, so recently, this is a fun thing I've started to do. So I bought my daughter a couple of new t-shirts and the sleeve cap is way too high. Color t-shirt. So I now have started to write reviews in to companies and I let them know why their pattern is wrong.
That's kind of amazing. I feel like if I were a small brand who didn't know and someone like gave me that advice, I'd be like, not only like do I maybe need to write my factory, but do I also need to hire this person?
So I've started to give feedback. So if your brand, I've sent it if I've purchased one of your products that are very specific on how to adjust your sleeve cap for a toddler t-shirt.
I love that.
It really feels validating to use
you're educating. You're like using that desire to educate and teach and get them to be better in their own way. I think that's great.
They caused me an extra trip to the store and I wasn't too pleased about it, because we all know I couldn't try that on her before we left.
Yeah.
So it needed to fit the first time.
Right.
So that's my new approach to ill-fitting clothes.
I love that. Okay. So if you're out there and you're a small brand making toddler clothes and you get a review that has pattern revision notes in it, you know, they probably came from Jessica.
They did. And I'm expecting it better next season.
I love it. If they can just like copy paste what you wrote and send that off to the factory.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, I kind of like that idea. Like, here are the comments to please send to your factory and then bullet point them out. That's so interesting.
I do too. It's very validating.
That is a whole other skill that we could probably talk about, is like writing proper comments and notes. But yeah, it's,
I think we've both given classes at different companies on how to write comments to factories, and writing comments on how to change a garment to fit to a company that English isn't their first language.
Yes. It's a huge skill. It's something that it took me probably a good decade before I feel like I was really writing great comments that were getting like really good results. And then after that, it's kind of been more smooth sailing, and I've been able to do more difficult things with fit projects. But it was a serious education of trial and error. It is definitely a skill and a talent.
Yeah. And that's how you know when you start getting product that is really good back, you're like, okay.
Yeah. Now they're getting me.
I got it.
Yeah, definitely.
I've been using those skills a lot more lately with my husband has an architecture firm. And so I've been helping him a lot because the subcontractors that he uses, most of them, English isn't their first language. So now we're working on how do you translate.
That's awesome.
All of the very technical information that he provides as an architect to them so that it's, they get it. And so now I help build houses, build t-shirts. I'm here to help.
I love that. That's so amazing. And I think, we were kind of gabbing before this, and I think something that you said that's also just really hitting home for me as I kind of really hone in on like the kind of customers and the clients that I want to work with as I move forward. You said that you guys are definitely just looking for people who are nice and who treat each other with kindness. And I think there's a huge shift toward that in the consulting space right now of, I don't want to work with assholes. I want to work with people who are grateful that I'm here. And at the end of the day, we can all treat each other with kindness and be good to each other, because there's not enough of that on the planet right now, I don't think.
No, there's not. And also the knowledge that we're bringing and the information that we're providing is so valuable. Mm-hmm. So then to be treated anything less, as a product developer, we've been through it. We've been to enough companies where we had really valid points that would have changed the trajectory of the company had we been heard. So it's kind of enough is enough. And we're here to provide. We're here to be kind. We're to provide the input to make companies be successful. But no longer are we going to accept being treated like shit.
Yeah, such a good way of putting it. Yeah,
I don't know. I like it. Yeah, trying to find people that value and That's everybody. We need to value everybody's skills, everybody's knowledge.
Yeah.
And
absolutely. Because everyone brings something to the table. Yeah.
Yeah. We both kind of came to that same conclusion, as we do.
As we usually do with everything. I know.
We do.
I know. When I went crazy for a moment and decided to get my real estate license, I called Jessica and told her, and she was like, "No way. I'm thinking about doing the same thing." It's very bizarre how we tend to do that to each other. But
it is.
Well, it is so good to see you. I'm so glad that I was able to have you on today. Thank you for this outstanding conversation. Let's have you on some other time. I feel like we could probably talk forever about the apparel industry and all that it brings. But yeah, if you are interested in hiring Jessica, she definitely still has her contracting role open and contracting company open, Paive. And yeah, she's one of the best. So yeah, I could not recommend her.
I say the same thing right back at you. You're one of the best.
Awesome. All right. Thank you all. Talk soon.
Thank you so much for listening to the Business of Apparel podcast. I would so appreciate hearing your thoughts on the show. And if you know someone who could benefit from it, please share it with them. My biggest desire is to help other apparel professionals understand the nuances of our industry so we can all work toward making better product for a better world. If you would like to connect further, I'd love to invite you to send me a message through my website, unmarkstreet.com, where I do weekly trainings through my video channel, a monthly newsletter, and offer so many resources to help you start and scale a profitable apparel brand.